Mark Patterson, longtime Mountaineer analyst, former Mountaineer in-house handicapping host, and longtime racing official, back with you from my new YouTube channel. I call it The Dungeon, a place where we share our deepest, darkest handicapping thoughts, secrets, memories, all the good stuff. Unfortunately, I got booted from my own dungeon last night. Call it lack of expertise, lack of technical savvy. Nobody learned less but the technical aspects, the equipment of doing live television than me. And I did it for 25 years. And it's a learning curve for me because I've got to learn the equipment here and be my own producer. And also the on-air talent, which I'm a lot better at than I am being my own producer. Good to be back. And as you can see, I dressed for the occasion too. Worked out in this shirt today. If you got some of the pictures that I posted on X earlier, no need for formalities here in the dungeon. We're all friends, correct? Hot, sunny today. The mountain main is fast. We're back on the turf, which is a good thing because I think we have 3 races worth of grass action tonight. It's always popular, usually bigger fields and sometimes better value and more competitive races. And a dash of 440 action. That's what I call the quarter mile events thrown in for good measure. And a very fast, very compelling, intriguing field will go postward in the night's quarter mile event a little bit later on. Hey, what did you guys do today? I did a lot concerning some water that seeped into my basement a couple of days ago. I want some of your advice on this. And we'll get into that whole deal a little bit later. But first, since I came up a little bit late, and friends of mine have informed me I will be late for my own funeral. There's no question about that. Haven't even decided that I'm going to have a funeral yet. I think I'd rather just slip away, kind of like I left Mountaineer. No great fanfare or farewell, cruel Mountaineer. No. I worked there for 36 years. They led me out. I stayed out. I like to keep things simple, guys. So with no further ado, let's take a look at the first race. How about the vet that left there? She worked there, 10 minutes? And then wrote this 10-page manifesto on social media. Goodbye, cruel Mountaineer. Perhaps someday I shall return to the greatest game in the world and renew acquaintances with you fine people that I shared company with for 30 seconds? I worked there for 36 freaking years and simply left when they marched me out. I call that the right way to make an exit. Whatever. First race, 5.5 furlongs. This is a dirt race, pretty obviously, because Mountaineer doesn't write 5.5 furlong turf races. Not winners in 12 months we're talking about. This is a very restrictive, veteran conditioned for the new lower floor in the Mountaineer condition book, $3,200. We have got 6 going to the post. And on one of my banners, love me some banners. I do know how to do this. I mastered the banners, baby. And on the banners, I like to cherry pick. I'm too lazy to invest the time to do a whole complete full dress military morning line for Mountaineer. I did it for 35 years. I think I paid my dues, 40,000 races worth. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I will cherry pick when I think a certain price point or two might be atrocious. And Tiergarten at 4-1 is just ridiculous. He's going to be much lower odds. Haven't even looked yet. I'm sure he will be. And in fact, he's going to be favored. I think I mentioned Krug and Superkick, who's really fast for that 440 later on, as misconceived morning line puzzlers. And then I've got race flow notes here too. It was one of my features. And across the crawl there, you will see I've got a note for the first race. Who outmaneuvers who? Tiergarten or Ice Flow? I think there's a grand total of 2 logical contenders in the first for a more effective trip. So Tiergarten backs up from a couple of routes. Last time, did really miss the break, but wasn't that quick into the first turn. And Tiergarten, I think, needs the lead to succeed going a route of ground. Obviously, isn't what he was. And 0 for 9 on conventional dirt. This has been a turf creature. Was as high as 4-1 last time in that mile race. I kind of liked him off that turf affair in which he set science fiction fractions. Just crazy quick splits. Did Tiergarten lay down there on June the 7th? Did not show that kind of speed when flipped over to dirt. Ironically enough, it can be easier sometimes if a route speed isn't straight up out quick or out-footed by superior firepower to show speed in a sprint race at Mountaineer than at a mile, because at a mile, you better be out of the blocks quickly or else the hole closes quickly and there's a mad dash and melee to the first turn. So big question here, can Tiergarten hold service along the inside and maybe roll up to be part of the pace or take close proximity to Romantic Jewel, who I will never pick to win anything. Romantic Jewel, who hasn't won since like 2 or 3 presidential administrations ago, managed to run second last time. She knows how to do that. I will give her that. Has been second 21 times, but just to 4 wins, I think tells her long, sad, familiar story. I think Ice Flow is the other contender in here. And the comments are coming in here, I see. It's good to see you guys. Really good to see you guys. And I missed you guys last night. And for what it's worth, I was able to keep betting, but I was just booted from the air. And I ended up breaking it even on the night. I blew a bet in the 440 on Miss Knuckles, which was probably not a smart move. And then lost a wager on somebody else I was taking a long shot stab on. And then hit a horse I really liked a lot in the nightcap in that weird ratings handicap race written for cheapos. I liked Boldness. I like Boldness a lot in there. And got $7 and some change, which was a fair price. It wasn't a great bonanza value, but it was fair, I thought. I really had to sweat it out. His Breezy Money, a horse I'm a big fan of, was in the mood last night to make it a fight, writing down to the bitter end. So I made a couple of bets, but I couldn't get with you guys. And again, apologies for that. Ice Flow has been a good horse here. I think originally came via Julie Mathis from Canada with a route form. I got in touch with her inner sprinter, that Ice Flow, and won some sprint races, have been passed from barn to barn. Oddly enough, as skilled as Dennis Cluley is, this horse hasn't run jump 1 for Dennis Cluley, and not even the vacation over the cold weather months and then coming back at him in May seemed to solve what ails Ice Flow. Ice Flow now wasn't a starter allowance race last time, but wasn't a real quick starter. As Crimson Knights should have been a big chalk there, but wasn't, and was able to get the lead without 4.5 furlong acceleration because there was none of that stuff in the race. So the door was open for Ice Flow. I didn't think it was a real good effort. It was a higher class race, though. And for third starter cycle, Ice Flow falls in with much softer competition here. Does Ice Flow? I think a large part of this race might be who gets out of the blocks better and who gets better early position down along the inside, Tiergarden or Ice Flow. Although I think Tiergarden could probably sit behind Ice Flow and Romantic Jewel on the cut back here and still run well. Made a good bid to the pre-stretch last time, which is scant praise to lose by 17 lengths at 4-1. And don't forget Tiergarden is 0 for 9 on conventional dirt. But, however, important qualifier here, Tiergarten shows some 4ths and some 5ths and speed dueling efforts at a mile at the Santa Anita, the great race place, and those are on dirt. Ran 3rd after getting the lead for most of a mile on dirt at Los Alamitos there. So Tiergarden, I think, has fallen in with soft enough company to win. And I would be hard-pressed to refer to anybody else in here as a thoroughbred. Bella Valencia, Sugar Britches, get out of here. The old John Baird horse, Sugar Britches, who had a very brief second career about 3 years back when they discovered she could flash route speed and maybe hang on. But man alive, she retired as a racehorse, it looks like, many, many months ago. Voracious Vera, no idea why Longshot Wilson Langland would even procure this horse, except he is extremely confident in his ability to improve on his peers. But this is a blank slate, this number 2, who's not even a thoroughbred as far as I can see. Somebody better check the lineage here on Voracious Vera. I got a Longshot Langley story that I'll tell after the race, if he gets any run at all, from Voracious Vera, where he actually bought a horse from me back in a very short career as a thoroughbred owner / wannabe trainer, which certainly wasn't at all in my wheelhouse. And Langley bought one from me and improved the horse by about 30 lengths. But that's another story, maybe for after the race, maybe for another night. So let's slip on over and check the odds board out here. And Tiergarden is the 3-2 favorite. Romantic Jewel's 9-5. Are you kidding me? Romantic Jewel with a 4 for 60 record, but 21 times second, and lost last time by 7.5 lengths. And the big move there was to advance Romantic Jewel all the way from 4.5 out to 6 and maybe have her see a daylight lead. But she never does that. She always insists on being hooked, it seems like to me. It's a 2-horse race, in my opinion. Tiergarden and Ice Flow. I like Tiergarden better. I would not call Tiergarden any kind of a mortal lock, though, or anything akin to that. If you're betting a double, I do have an opinion on the second race, just for your viewing pleasure and potential edification. I kind of make it between Mr. Chilly Willy and a horse I like more than that, Unpredictable Bay. So I use the 2 and the 6 and the front double myself. Good luck back afterwards. Well, that was just not difficult. And even though I was too correct in my assessment that 4-1 on Tiergarten was ridiculous, a guesstimate on the morning line, 6-5, I thought was still fair on Tiergarten. 2-horse race, Tiergarten and Ice Flow. And I much prefer Tiergarten of the pair. Tiergarten's dirt wearers were more than good enough to beat this woeful field. And I also mentioned that strangely enough, at an instance like this, a bad field like this, it can be easier for a horse like Tiergarten to display her natural speed, given that at a mile, which starts very close to the first turn, if you got several horses to your inside that outbreak you, with that first elbow dashing up right in your face, your race can be over before it's even begun to be run. And I think that was the case tonight. Tiergarten just gives him the grand tour. Boy, did that jock look good. Takes a great seat on a horse, down in rhythm, and gets his body up, the bulk of his weight, his mass up on a horse's weight-bearing withers. I like how he looks on a horse, and it's been a long time since Mountaineer had a talented bug, so tough not to predict good things for this kid, although agents watch these signals and they scout from other tracks, bigger tracks, for talented bugs because they're at a premium any place on earth. And I wonder if they're even now trying to recruit Halder to go someplace else and ride stateside. I guess he came in from South America or something like that. I know his dad's a jockey, was a jockey for a long time, correct? Does anybody know what he tacks? What weight can he do? Because that's critical to success as a bug, to great success. You got to be light enough for the trainers to benefit from the weight that you can theoretically get off because of the apprentice allowance. Used to ask that all the time in the racing office when entries would come across my desk. And if I thought they were spotting a horse too low, and the limit was 7 pounds, a horse could not come in more than 7 pounds heavier, the jock more than 7 pounds above the listed weight. I used to yell out and ask the clerk of scales all the time, hey, what does this kid tack? What does he tack? So I wouldn't let the trainer get in a bad spot and enter a horse too light. And I would also advise them, if they couldn't take all the weight because the jock couldn't do it. In other words, if they were dithering between, and I'm getting technical now, because this was my business for a long time, if they were getting in a dither, trying to choose between waiving some of the bug or not taking the allotted weight they were eligible to get off, the weight allowances under the header, I would always recommend take the heading weight off, because what if the kid doesn't ride? What if he chooses another mount? What if he loses part of his bug before the race? Then you still have your core weight removed out of the race heading. Just one of the professional touches that I learned a long time checking entries and bossing a racing office, being in charge of a racing office and other officials. I did bet on Tiergarten, not only to win, but I played doubles, 2-2 and 2-6. I'm surprised they sniffed my 2-6 out. The tune of only $15. That one's going to pay. They're just too smart, even in the gimmick pools nowadays. And hello to everybody. Appreciate seeing you guys. I saw where somebody mentioned, love the crawl, love the scroll across the bottom of the screen. Makes me feel like I'm watching CNN. What a compliment that is. It makes me feel all official and stuff, real professional. You know what it reminds me of? The whole CNN comparison, my scroll across the bottom. When I first got the job as Mountaineer's in-house analyst, I took myself so seriously, and I've never met a person devoid of ego. I think that's pretty well known about me. I have been called arrogant around Mountaineer by other employees, but whatever the case, I took myself so seriously and really didn't know how to relax in front of a camera and be myself for the first couple of years that I worked that gig. And man, every race was like the biggest event of my life. And I want to impress people and just show the depth of my horse racing analysis and take these deep dives and show everybody in 5-minute bites just how much I knew or thought I knew. And I guess I was so serious about it. I guess down around Charlestown, it developed a nickname for me, which was not complimentary. They used to call me Dan Rather. Well, there's Dan Rather again. Breaking down some races. The only thing Dan Rather and me have in common, big heads. I wear a size 8 ball cap. And it is said that having a big cranium, a big gourd, and trust me, it is not an asset with the ladies. Trust me. It never helped my game with the chicks back in my premarital phase. But they say it's a benefit on television. It's kind of compelling that it attracts attention or whatever, huh? Whatever. Welcome into all particular welcome to the Mountaineer twins, Katie and Charlie. Hey, Travis, that's their dad who shows up to patronize the dungeon. He says they're in Texas, and he is not. So what are they doing in Texas, number one? And do we have to rename them the Dungeon Twins since I don't work in Mountaineer anymore? I think it might confuse the little gals. But what if we slap some ghoulish makeup on them and taught them to answer to the Dungeon Twins? Is that possible, Travis? Could we do that? Maybe, sort of. Moving quickly along here, we come to the grass phase. And I saw somebody complaining about more 440 action from Mountaineer tonight. I'm partly to blame for that because I was largely responsible for the advent of these things at the Mountaineer. But we needed warm bodies. We needed to fill races. And we did approach them differently in philosophy than the current crew in there does right now. I'm not saying we did it better, but we viewed the races, how to write them and how to schedule them and how to present them in a little different manner than the current regime down there now does. And I'll get into that a little bit later on tonight. The second race, yeah, can we call them the Dungeon Twins, Travis, my man, my friend? Travis has been to my domicile and was a guest of me and my wife. I wish all you guys could pop by. I really do. The second race, 7/8 on the turf. This is a never 4 or a 2 in 2026 conditions. On this 75, I don't know what claimer. Okay, in my race flow notes, in addition to who was going to get the inside position in the first between Tiergarten and Ice Flow, and I think that's been decided. I came back in race number 2 and raised a more subtle question, I think. When you look at Mr. Harry and Legal Titan, neither of whom I make just an absolute prime contender to win this race. But if you notice, they both went out and got the hard send last time and kind of fought for their respective leads and their races and both folded up big time. And since each horse has won before at 2 turns on turf from a little bit behind the pace, it has been said that jockeys are a lot like generals and that they're always adjusting their strategy in accordance with what happened in the last battle. So I wonder if maybe just a little bit, one or both of these horses get snugged back a little bit. And if that happens tonight in response to those 2 quits that they put on last time, then that could really soften things up for the likes of Mr. Chilly Willie from the 2 post in there. And I'll make Krug a player. I know Krug just ran off the screen and Krug's got a turf win to his credit, but I cherry picked Krug as a ridiculously conceived morning line price. I don't even have to look at it now to tell you he's going to be way the hell higher than 3 to 1. Are you kidding me? No, not 3 to 1 on Krug. For one thing, he didn't have 7/8 acceleration. For another thing, he's probably not a $7,500 horse. And if you need another reason, his grass one, I'm pretty sure, was the novelty, which have never, ever won a race on turf. Okay. So I don't make him a player. And in accordance, getting back to my race flow note, if they snug the 7 and or the 9 back from the gate with a stocking strategy tonight, it could be ringing the dinner bell, a ticket to ride for Mr. Chilly Willie. Mr. Chilly Willie really didn't fire last time much on the turf. That's a good grass horse that won at the El Onita. And maybe Mr. Chilly Willie was in need of the race, perhaps a little bit. He is the inside speed here, the closest get the lead threat to the rail. And Mr. Chilly Willie's not that old, especially by turf horse standards. And he took 3 in a row last year on the grass. And each of those buyers would more than carry the day here. Never do Mr. Chilly Willie. So I think he's a real contender here. Another horse that I'm looking at a lot that I like in here is number 6, Unpredictable Bay. And so I better flip on over and check out how far out from post we are. And they're still in the paddock coming towards the track. Unpredictable Bay's been kind of smoked out by the wise guys. Their Unpredictable Bay's down at 5 to 2. First off, I know he's 0-4-6 on the turf, but I love his last race, Unpredictable Bay, because he is closing at a lone speed winner who was very stout and can close effectively and was just galloping out there in extremely soft fractions on a firm, bouncy turf course. And there was no way that horse was going to get run down in the late stages. And Unpredictable Bay was actually gaining on that winner who would come back to close stoutly and see his number put up by disqualification a few race cards back, right? So the flow was against him last time, Unpredictable Bay, and I thought he ran a ton in there. And as there was earlier grass races, we'll get into those in a minute after the post break. Just out of habit, they don't cut my mic anymore. They can't do it. It's my mic in my dungeon. But just out of habit, I'm going to step aside while Pete does the post parade, then come back at you and continue to break this race down. Okay, 0 to post, which means we probably have 3 or 4 minutes to keep yakking about this race, guys, huh? Unpredictable Bay. I know he was 0 for 5 on the grass before that most recent race, but those other seconds were really good. He missed by a head, missed by a neck. I think a non-claimers at Indy. And one of his outs was just a 5-length loss in a stakes race on turf. So he had turf aptitude, even though he was winless on grass going into his most recent outing there. Unpredictable Bay. And if things heat up on top, and Mr. Harry, Legal Titan, they're certainly capable to go out there and entertain Mr. Chilly Willy, or Mr. Chilly Willy is not yet what he was last year, then I think the door is wide open for Unpredictable Bay, who's actually the favorite now at 8 to 5. Irish Heatwave on the inside, an aged grass horse with 7 turf wins and $400,000 there. Got a hard time believing that Eddie Clouston would buy a turf horse this age unless the horse had a little tread left on his tires. He didn't run like it last year, though, and a mere $4,000 claimer on turf. Sometimes the long time away from the game can restore them. He must have needed it because he was put away September the 2nd there. Irish Heatwave, he is a dirt winner. They did not keep him around, though, to capitalize on soft conditions on dirt. Irish Heatwave, which makes me believe that he might have needed that long layup there. Irish Heatwave came back and probably needed his return race because the Stansbury horses that she was keeping warm for Clouston were all short, first or second time back, so he can move forward here. Drops in claiming price and was in with a better horse last time, Elonita, so I don't think he'd be any big surprise. He's not really one of my absolute first-tier contenders. Those would be Mr. Chilly Willy and more so Unpredictable Bay. But as a second-tier contender, yeah, I would not be surprised that Irish Heatwave maybe could possibly win this race. Mr. Harry might have needed that last race. It's just tough to embrace anything that Burton Sip trains because he never wins races. I will say this, behind the scenes, I still suspect the guy who this horse was named for, Harry Peace, kind of a SIP associate, might still be pulling the puppet strings on number 7, Mr. Harry, who had some big buyers last year that turf and was a good horse on the grass. I'm curious what the strategy is going to be. Finucane, who owns the 9, I told you guys a million times, you want to make sure he's the owner before you give consideration to a Wally Jenkins horse, because Finucane is the brain trust and the driving force behind the horses that he owns. And Legal Titan is kind of push button. He has run well from behind. He has run well in front. But it seems like when they snag him back or raid him back, he hangs. A little bit at the moment of truth, Legal Titan. The potential to be fitter than he was in that return race. But can you look at what Mr. Harry did in his first start back and look at what Legal Titan did in his first start back and figure just that one prep, that one action under Silks is going to be enough to get them win ready for this? I don't know if I want to look at this race in that regard. I really don't tend to think that way. I would actually make number 6, Unpredictable Bay, the likeliest winner, but I'm big time disappointed in the price. And since I'm already invested in the daily double with Unpredictable Bay and also with Mr. Chilly Willy, no need to reach in my pocket and make a win bet here. And that's one big benefit, one unsung benefit of betting daily doubles. You don't have to reach into your poke to bet the second race. Even if you lose the second race, you didn't have to fork over a win bet. Good luck to you guys. We'll get to the comments here in a couple of minutes. Apologies to you guys if we had sound issues. I like the 2 of the 6 in this race, just to cut to the cliff notes. I think the key is, will Mr. Harry and or Legal Titan be rated back a little bit in the wake of their hard sent quits in their comeback races? They're either has come from just behind. I don't think they do that tonight, but it might make their connections considered a feasible option tonight tactically. And that would loosen it up for Mr. Chilly Willie on top, who is certainly not over the hill in turf years. Mr. Chilly Willie, three-peat for him last year on the grass with better buyers than it would take to win this Mr. Chilly Willie. And he is the innermost speed. Merits a lot of respect. Krug, I don't give him any chance here. He's a mile horse. He's too cheap, and his turf win was in a lowly, no one was ever on grass condition. Unpredictable Bay, guys, last time closed at a very stout front-running winner who capitalized on some super soft splits and then came back to close like a freight train in a much better field. So he was just a tall order to close at when he was out there loose on the lead. And he's quite the now horse. Is that his name in the news? Let me know before you go. Also, Unpredictable Bay, 2 of his seconds on grass were non-claimers at Indy. And both times, placing judges required. They were both photo finishes. And I think one of his outs on grass was in a bona fide stakes race. Number 6, Unpredictable Bay. And apologies if you heard me, but I think I've had some sound difficulties. So I'm just kind of reiterating my take on this race. I don't need to bet the win because I have the 2 and the 6 going in daily doubles here. Disappointed in the price on number 6 and in the fact that the CEW evidently smoked him out and pounded that daily double ticket all the way down to $15. Just $15 on number 6. Unpredictable Bay. I think Irish Heat Wave is kind of a secondary contender. Mr. Harry and Legal Titan would be secondary contenders. I know the SIP thing's a big turnoff with Mr. Harry, but I would not be surprised if this horse's namesake, that used to be the trainer record on him, Harry Pease, might still be pulling the puppet strings behind the scenes. Irish Heat Wave, pretty rare for Clouston to buy an aged grass horse without a little tread left on the tires. We haven't seen it yet from Irish Heat Wave. Nonetheless, the Stansbury horses have been so short first time back, as Irish Heat Wave was, that he may move forward off that. And if he gets some tempo and he's fitter, might have kind of one last hurrah here. This 7-time turf winner of some $400,000. So I make him kind of a second-tier contender. I guess you'd call him a B horse, right? I guess that's the terminology. Anyways, I'm going to root for my doubles. I don't need to bet this race to win. I'm pulling for Mr. Chilly Willie or Unpredictable Bay. How'd you guys call it when they hit the final post? I thought it might be a dead heat. I was a little surprised that the margin was actually a long nose. But when you look at the photo finish there, it takes longer when there's a tight one on turf for whatever reason for the placing judges to examine the splashdown. I'll explain splashdowns, digital splashdowns to you guys sometime because I had extensive experience as a placing judge and could tell you guys some really cool stories about my time in the placing stand. Whatever the case, I didn't care which way it went because my doubles were paying about the same, 14 and 15 bucks respectively, because about the same amount on a 2-2 and on a 2-6 there. And you might think, okay, simple matter of geometry, which I flunked. The 2-horse hugs the hedge, so to speak, all the way around, and the 6-horse has the tip like 3.5 wide around the far turn. I don't think it's that simple at all, though. I think the 2 still ran a better race because it seems like everybody was on send, and they ran relays with Mr. Chilly Willy. First, the 7-horse gets hard gunned, Mr. Harry, and then here comes the 9-horse, Legal Titan, the 3-horse through the middle of it, try to put his 2 cents in on the pace. And as a matter of fact, the dead game, Mr. Chilly Willy, who's got a lot of heart, man, at one point seemed beaten and put away by Legal Titan, but bowed his neck and came back to just outlast number 6, Unpredictable Bay, and moving forward. And I think this is something that you want to keep in mind. Unpredictable Bay, I think one reason he wasn't able to benefit totally from a favorable race shape up front, a very competitive pace, and get up and win it was he stayed left lead there. And that will tend to neuter a horse's late surge there, Unpredictable Bay. So I don't know if he can top that effort or even duplicate it coming back next time. I'm not a big fan of horses that stay left lead, even veterans that have done it habitually for a long time. So I got water in my basement, my finished basement, and we built the house 3 years ago. And I got water in my finished basement that I pride myself on, only I got it on the mechanical side, not the finished side. Just a couple of puddles, but it really bummed me big time because it was coming in from the side of the house behind me. When you're looking at my logo there, the dungeon logo with the 2 mean horses squaring off, behind that is a fairly big road that is referred to as Route 8 or Veterans Boulevard. I live kind of at a rural location, but not out in the sticks or anything like that. And I have superior walls, those big prefabricated concrete slabs that they interlock and seal and put together and stuff, and paid a lot of money for them. And one opinion from my excavator, a really good kid who gave me a good deal when he excavated the place, an up-and-coming talent in the excavation field. When he came over to look, and he came over almost immediately, good guy, and he excavated my property for me about 4 years ago. And when he came over to look, his opinion was the superior walls might be not sealed correctly. And after the torrential rains, we had like 3 inches in one day, that they were coming in at the point of the seals. The water was at a couple of points and just kind of seeping into the unfinished part of my basement. But my contractor who built my house, he and his crew with his 2 hands, and he's a great guy and he's brilliant. He knows all aspects of construction. He knows the plumbing, he knows the electricity, he knows the landscaping, he certainly knows how to build. And in his opinion, he thinks my land is not contoured right, that it slopes down too sharply from a hill that is adjacent to my house, again on the Route 8 side, that there's no place for the water to go except down against my wall. He says supposedly those superior walls are impregnable, but they're not. No wall is impregnable if enough rain, enough water, just torrential biblical rains assault that wall. You're going to get some water in your basement. So his recommendation, rather than calling the superior wall people and complaining about cracks or improper sealants and stuff like that, is that I should have my excavator reconfigure that side of the house to land a little bit so there's a place for the water on that side to slope away. So if you guys know anything about this, how about speaking up in the comments and sounding off and giving me your opinion on this, because it's really got me bummed. It's really got me worried, and I got to figure it out what to do. Right now I'm leaning towards having the land recontoured, which I don't think is an extremely expensive thing. Just that one section of the property from which the water drains down to the side of the house that evidently got into my basement. Sorry to bore you guys with the mundane details of my life as a homeowner. Apologies, guys. 2 more grass races coming at us, and I don't like the third or well, I like a horse in the 4th race. I do. Yeah, I do like a horse in the fourth race. But the third race, I am not big on this. It's a good field. It's a compelling race, but I really don't have a strong opinion here. I can make case for several contenders. Never three. Let's set the header first. Allowance, 1 mile on the turf. Um, West Hampton, who I loved, two back and made a big bet on and got 5-1. West Hampton came back against a much better field and kind of met his Waterloo at what was probably an overbet 4-1. This jock is just kind of a gun, make a hero move on the far turn, try to make a Rozzy out of West Hampton. I didn't think it was going to work against a far better field on July 8th than he beat the time before, and it sure did. And he showed some hang there, West Hampton. And if anything, he's in at least as tough tonight, I think. I know it's an allowance, but it was a tough 12-5 claimer he was in last time with the same condition, West Hampton. Kathmandu, the two-horse. So Rex says, I live in Florida. What is a basement? Kenny Neely, good friend of mine, says drainage ditch to catch before wall should do it. Yeah, that's what my contractor said, my man. I think I'm covered under warranty. So let's get over and take a look at the odds and stop talking basement and start talking horse races. Kathmandu, Jeff Runco comes up from Charlestown. And if you bet every Charlestown ship up to try the turf, because they don't have that stuff at the house that Speed built, then I think you'd be rich in the long run. Kathmandu's been on grass before he ever hit Charlestown. He was in the money. I think once and fourth a couple of times, at least once on turf at Laurel, showed a turf foot. I don't know if he got any better on dirt at Charlestown as much as he got softer competition at Charlestown and a soft lead a couple of times for Kathmandu. I don't know where they're at with him, though, because he was off 2.5 months before his last one and tanked at 7-2. Now, Runco's got this imposing, and a lot of people don't like Jeff Runco. They consider him, I don't know, a little bit taciturn, if not an outright smart ass or tough guy to deal with. I like Runco, though, because he's right to the point. He's very professional. And I always had a really good relationship with him. And he's not a bullshitter and will not work you around or jack you around to achieve his goals. Runco. I always liked Runco and got along real good with him. A lot of respect for Jeff Runco. A lot of the races he's won at Mountaineer, though, were with 2 to 5 shots that outclassed the local West Virginia breds. If you kind of get my drift there, this is a different deal with Kathmandu. Who's not even a West Virginia bred, but definitely a player, definitely a contender. 3-1 right now. I don't know if he goes lower or not. He may go a little bit lower on the Jeff Runco name brand tax thing. So we'll talk about Z Dancer after the post parade. We'll do it in a big hurry off that sharp second place finish, which earned him a really lively buy last time. Mean Joe Green, 75 number to a horse that returned to win at Prescott and returned to win smartly and a starter optional faster. The key was getting the lead to himself last time, Z Dancer. That was the big key, obviously. Could be more of the same in store here, too. There's a look at West Hampton in the post parade. My mic's not killed like it used to be, so I guess I can talk if I want to. The horse that he beat time before last, State of Attack, had a bit of a rough trip or might have been closer to West Hampton and came back to not run so well as a 4 to 5 favorite. That did not flatter West Hampton for his subsequent performance there. Z Dancer, he got the lead last time and fought tenaciously against a now horse, a very sharp winner. There wasn't much behind either one of them, but they both ran huge and proved it on the Beyer scale. Z Dancer, his other visible win there, his only other win from 27 starts was a soft lead and slow final time against questionable competition here on dirt. He was on grass here before and didn't do a whole lot back in 2025. I guess Vasquez has this horse going better now than that. And he is definitely a contender, I would say. And he's bet like it a 2-1 strong contender. And might be the only pure front runner in the field. I don't like the 2 for 27 thing, and I'm not sure I
the source completely. Royal Salute. I know Royal Salute exits a claimer, but won an allowance the time before and beat a good enough field there, at least a good enough place horse. Was ridden patiently by Oliveros, who's a turf master. Barbaran's a good tactician too, though, and that's suitable for two-turn turf races. And Royal Salute was second last time. There was named Bosley, who was very tough. 12-5 claiming sticker or not when he gets a loose lead on grass. So that's a big performance from Royal Salute, who can be tactical and might position a little closer to the pace here, as he has on some occasions in the past, because I'm not looking for a whole lot of tempo up front. Royal Salute, very tractable and another contender, helps make this a very deep race. And don't be fooled too much by the class jump, because that's a good horse that beat him last time under the same condition. And that good horse got things his way on a soft lead. Blanche's Mule. Blanche's Mule, a Tim Shanley horse, who was third here on May the 24th to a phenom, an unbeaten horse named Midnight Show. And that was a solid race. And he proved it by coming back to Charlestown, going back to Charlestown and running huge, which not a lot of horses can do after they come to Mountain Air, which is considered the land of no return. Blanchard's Mule with good, consistent form. Loves some of the competition he kept down at Charlestown there. What about Falcon Blue, who would go on to win open allowances? Payzone, who was one of Anthony Ferrier's finest and on the rise then. Good buyers. Is he a full-blown big boy route horse, or does he won 6.5 or 7/8 still? I don't know. Blanche's Mule. Plus his one grass race wasn't good, but his dirt form wasn't good at the time either. And Timothy Shanley, I guess, likes this horse's pedigree for turf. My big question about Blanche's Mule, who don't necessarily make it 5-2, one of the likelier winners in this race, because there is some proven turf talent signed on for this, is does he have a role to play? Will he go out there? Will he be sent? And maybe keep Z Dancer honest out of the engine? Or could Catman Do catch a flyer coming out of there? Because he's kind of a slow lead specialist when he goes two turns. A lot of question marks here. I got enough of the 10 horses action last time. Change it to Jamaica. I should have known he beat nothing the time before. The pace fell apart and he was the only horse moving through the lane. But I looked at his turf races and figured, boy, if he can run a 64 buyer on dirt, what's he going to do on grass? We saw what he's going to do on grass. I didn't even like his action. I think he went left lead and kind of jabbed at the ground and not poetry in motion. So he's a horse who I do not consider a major player here. This race is confusing to me. I can make a case for several contenders. I do not intend to bet it. Hopefully, you have obtained some enlightenment from my commentary. If not, what can I tell you? Back afterwards. Good luck.
Total chalk race that I think came down very much to trips as Kathmandu got a dream voyage as the jock on Royal Salute was kind of between a rock and a hard place. I mentioned that Royal Salute had some back speed at Gulfstream Park, and those tactics never worked out real well for him. But in a race that found him the second fastest, the first call, he was in a spot where he sort of kind of had to go up and respect 2-1 Z Dancer enough to force the issue. I think maybe the Barbarian, who's very clever, would have tried to put Pagan on Z Dancer in a jackpot, but Pagan did not accommodate. He stayed just far enough back to keep from being put in a box there in behind that leader. Batista did not indulge. He stayed just far enough back behind Pagan to keep Barbarian from putting him in a box there on Kathmandu. And plus, I think Z Dancer was racing far enough out from the inside that there was always going to be room in there for Kathmandu, who saved all the ground and sat there and kind of did the let's you and him fight thing as Royal Salute with no real choice. Sees his jockey go up and force Z Dancer. If he didn't do that, maybe Z Dancer is going to win the race, so I can't knock him for those tactics, but it definitely fell right into Kathmandu's lap with a ground-saving trip and the somewhat competitive lead in front of him. He was in the catbird seat and just grinning the whole way, and had run well on the grass before. Kathmandu. West Hampton, amazing performance. Did you watch this guy prop and duck to the inside rail and spot the field many lengths from the break and makes this huge sweeping recovery run and actually loom with some menace with about 3/16 to go. Inevitably hangs, but I just raised my opinion of West Hampton. It had to be the race of his life there. I thought he was overmatched. I did not like him even off the win there on June 23rd, but was very impressed with the way he performed tonight. And I don't think Z Dancer ran best. I'm sorry, I don't think Kathmandu ran best. I think his win came down to a fortunate voyage. One more grass race coming at you. It's a 1 miler, a never two filly and mare. This is a $15,000 claimer, a scant proven turf talent in the race. I think the only grass winner in here might be Sister Sola. And you can see what happened there. She dueled in a return race there and folded, as is her custom. And I counted, and Ramsey had to know that she had blown the lead under him. Had been in front of some earlier interior call, like 5 or 6 times, and then been beaten, suffered fatigue there. So he tried something different on May 31st, and it worked like a charm. I think he was in love with those new tactics next time, and there was some speed, some runoff speed up in front of him there. So Sister Sola was rated back there. It didn't work out quite so well this time. She never did quite inherit command. I don't know what's going to happen now after a couple of off-the-board efforts from Sister Sola. Are they going to go back to old habits and send her early here and get the lead on Sister Sola, or try to do a May 31st and kind of rate her back a little bit? I don't know. But the horse that she trounced, Imprudence, flipped over to dirt and won by about 15 lengths in the next outing there. So she's a contender, Sister Sola. And you should respect, and I learned this from hard experience, rather than always nitpick the win, you should respect a field's only grass winner when that's a scarce commodity. So I don't make her one of my top 2 picks here, but I respect her. Morgan's Bluff goes first off the claim from the inside. Morgan's Bluff there. You can see on the grass at Del Mar, Morgan's Bluff gets bumped from both sides. It dramatically improved on that Indy dirt form, and actually had been 4th on the turf at Indy, beating just 2 lengths with another troubled trip steadied there. So here's a horse that is now 0 for 10 on turf, but I think there's little question is way better on turf than on dirt market Morgan's Bluff. And I'm sure that's why Cordero Lopez dropped the claim on Morgan's Bluff for $4,000 there last time, with a mind to get this one back over in the grass. But we're talking about a 1 for 26, 6-year-old never 2, and Morgan's Bluff. Morgan's Bluff, the dirt performance was ugly, gets outdueled by a slow JBM there on the lead. So when you duel and you back up, you at least want to take your pace opponent down with you, which Morgan's Bluff did not do at 5-2, taking the panhandle plunge last time. And not much horse that outdueled Morgan's Bluff for the lead there. And if we're looking in terms of comparative dirt performances, that didn't even rank with a Mahoning dirt form that found Morgan's Bluff third a couple of times. So I'm not sure where Morgan's at right now. And despite the kind of turf history, which would probably win this if Morgan's Bluff could conjure up some of that Indy / Del Mar turf stuff to
conk this unsuspecting field over the head with maybe not the best of times to claim from Alejandro Gomez because he's showing 13%, but his stock has been running right through the bridle for the last month or so. So I'm not real sure that Cordero Lopez can right this ship with Morgan's Bluff, but maybe Turf can right the ship. I saw a question in the comments. Somebody said they can get 7-1 on Super Kick in the 440. Can Super Kick beat Cash Customer? Yeah, Super Kick can beat Cash Customer if Super Kick breaks fast enough to keep Cash Customer from crashing down on him. Cash Customer, and I put this in my race flow notes here, Cash Customer with a proven 440 sudden start. Even 4.5 furlong horses don't always have that quick lick coming out of the gate. But Super Kick, I think, is maybe the fastest horse in there at top speed of some of those Charlestown fractions. And I have no reason to believe the horse is sluggish away from the gate. And I think Super Kick's going to be favored there. So anytime you can get 7-1 on a horse that's probably going to be favored on the real-time tote board, yeah, man, you got to go for it. Hojan Lee says, was the 204 a clean start? Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. I didn't watch it real close there. Sure ran a ton. I hear Sealflex does wonders. Yeah, I'm going to make them do more than that, Rex, because I paid like $30,000 for those walls, and they are guaranteed. They're insured for something like 25 years or something like that. My walls, if water gets into my house. Only mistake I made, I didn't take pictures, so I got to wait to get hit over the head with another flood before I can call them into action. Out of mind, number 2, it's got to be a big price here. Slow win on dirt, has never been on grass. Mike Jones, not having his best year either at Mountaineer. Dancing Shadows. A couple of seconds on the turf going 5.8. You guys are way more sophisticated and to expect this horse to appreciate the extra real estate because 5.8's kick is very different. Sustaining it for a big girl ride of ground. I don't know if she can do that at all. I'm not even sure she's a good horse because she was second to a fellow closer on June 16th as the race set up for late movers. And then last, I'm clunked up by some very bad horses to get second. The winner did go gate to wire at a distance that favors early speed, but I'm just very skeptical. The Dancing Shadows is that good a horse to begin with off those buyers and off those margins of defeat at the mere 5 furlong distance on turf. And anytime I see a 5 furlong quote unquote closer, count me out when they go a full 2 turns because they don't really have that kind of stamina usually. Luminique, number 7, 0 for 2 on turf. But once ran a 52 buyer speed fig on turf. That was right here, went 4th to a better horse than these Differential. Came back next time. This horse is a dirt winner. And I thought it would do okay in there. Maybe run a little bit better. Luminique did not lift a hoof in anger there, though. So I don't know. This barn's a little bit quirky, too. The barn I'm talking about. Dance on Air ran off with a jockey last time or something and then completely backed up first time off the claim. They want to keep her on turf because she's a turf winner, but it doesn't look like the same horse these days to me. So what do? A lot of times when a horse does that, the jock will overreact next time and strangle. So I'm intrigued what Renzo Diaz, what his move is going to be on Dance on Air, as well as what Ramsey's going to do on Sister Sola, the habitual get the lead and quit type, whose one win came when rated behind the leader. A horse I like in here, and I'm going to get there quick in case we're running out of time, is number 11, Dream Leader. I think Dream Leader is a really strong possibility in this race. And Dream Leader, I know, is 0 for 2 on turf and no great shakes on dirt with a 2 for 26 record. But please notice, Dream Leader is a West Virginia bred, and by virtue of that is able to bring the 2 wins into a 1-win only party, and that can be an advantage. And this horse back with Lynn Cutno, good horseman, who trained Dream Leader to be second a couple of times over the mountain main. I think Dream Leader is better on turf too, because I looked that race up at Laurel last time, in which Dream Leader made a pretty good middle move wide out around the turn there. And I checked out the competition, and Stay in Tune, who won it, was a 2-time winner and number 3 going in. Remember, these were only 1-time winners. And Stay in Tune, I think, came back to be 4th at Colonial and an open 25,000 claimer on turf. The place horse had a couple of seconds on turf, and the 3rd runner, Bella Estrella. You got to do your homework when these horses ship in and see what they were in with and how the races played out. And Bella Estrella, who was third there in the Dream Leader race again, stick with me, guys, at Laurel last time, Bella Estrella had won an unclaimer on grass and some kind of an allowance optional. So the bar was just 10 times higher there than it is here. Almost leads me to believe that Dream Leader may well be able to beat these horses, this woeful field, this inflated field of 15,000 number twos on turf, because I think she's better on grass. Dream Leader, not my favorite turf rider, not a guy with a lot of guile or patience or guts that's going to tuck over, find a seam, and do a Chaz Oliveros. Really not his style, but I do like Dream Leader here at 5-1, and I'm seriously contemplating some kind of a wager here on Dream Leader. My Angel Does was a second to a runaway winner, Black Betty, who got an ocean there and opened a big lead and just stayed there. So was second on a non-competitive pace there, still rallied and put up the kind of speed fig, if you trust turf speed figs, that could well win this, did not come back to replicate that. That was a real tank, real regression at 7-2. And I wonder now if Gomez, and you got to watch these things, is as hot right now as he was when My Angel Does was second on June 2nd. And at Mountaineer, you got to use the People Magazine approach to the trainer angle, who's hot, who's not. And as the stables are rolling, so will go the horses. Believe me. And I see there is a $1,900 Super 5 carryover. Not a bet that interests me. The Super 5. I used to just get 4 picks, even when I was instructed to get 5, when I was doing the in-house thing at Mountaineer, because I just wasn't going to do the, come on, you got to bet the super highfalutin 5 thing. I would tout the carryover a couple of times and shut up about who might run 5th. Because at that point, you got to pick horses that aren't going to fire or won't get a favorable trip to be on the ticket. Just the whole thing made no sense to me. So the 1 horse definitely a possibility, and bet like it at 5-2. And I think the 11 horse could be sneaky formidable here at 5-1. So that's probably going to be my play of the 11 horse. Don't like this jockey though. From a wideish post, had 2 turns on the turf. Doesn't really fit Bailey Weatherly's pistol.
$11.80 on the field's only a turf winner there, huh? Yeah, I think I stated before the race, that's a powerful angle and not to be underestimated. Sometimes it ain't rocket science. Sometimes it's really that simple. Good patient ride by Ramsey, declined that runoff leader's Gambit, and was able to pull it off there on a horse that used to get caught from behind all the time, Sister Sola. But if you rate her second, then she's got a chance, and that's been the strategy for both of her wins. She pays almost $12. I was disappointed the way my 11 ran because the race was just soft. It was easy, and I expected her to run better there. A Dream Leader lost a bet on Dream Leader there at the 5-1. Sister Sola, though, definitely a player. And you know what? I'm not, Morgan's Bluff definitely had a chance, but I did warn you guys that Morgan's Bluff did not run well. Better on turf, but did not do well at all last time by her own dirt standards established at Mahoning, and not a good time to claim one from Alejandro Gomez. I was not optimistic that Cordero Lopez could right an Alejandro Gomez ship at this point when you compare the two barns, barn to barn there. So onward and upward, huh? Fifth race, back to dirt for the duration. And this is no winners in 2026. Kind of a generic condition on this, huh? $4,000 claimer. Belamos, I think, is probably going to be the favorite. It's 3-1 in the morning line. And I'll take a look at the odds here.
Belamos is actually 9-2. Yeah, I don't think it's going to stay like that. Confessor 2-1. I'm not feeling Confessor 2-1. For one thing, Clouston hasn't worked his way back in enough to prove that his horses are fit coming back off the sidelines. And also, Confessor's an inveterate route horse with scant sprint experience, and he's 10 years old. How many 10-year-old route horses are going to win going 6 furlongs off the shelf? I think somebody's being seduced by that 16-16-6 record for almost $500,000 there on Confessor. Confessor's got to come from way back at 6 furlongs. Confessor hasn't run since November, and Confessor's 10 years old. That's just not even a horse that's going to be favored. The money here is going to go to number 6, Belamos, and some of it to number 3, Outkissed, I would say. Belamos was an allowance winner over this track back in April. Not that kind of horse anymore, but he got part of the fall and all of the winter off and most of the spring and came back to be second off the sidelines to a lone speed winner. Not a good horse, but a lone speed winner, Canaval. And then came back and definitely ran better. A lot of horses would bounce after a hard driving return, would regress second time out. But instead, Belamos, I think, ran better because the winner this time, pretty good horse. It was a really short price cost basis. And there's no way anybody was going to get close to the front running cost basis there. And Belamos gave it a really good try, I think, all things considered. Third start of cycle. Should be able to move forward and improve. Has a good win record, 5 for 20. And kind of hard not to like this horse, I think, against not a real strong field. Zaddy also comes from behind, but was beaten last time by 92, who I think was 60-1. John Brown, Will Rogers Downs horse or something like that. Yeah, I kid you not, who came from behind in a closer friendly race. So I grade Belamos's last out second a lot more highly than I do the second place finish from Zaddy. Much more highly. Shiva claimed for $3,200 there. I still have no idea with that pedigree how this horse went for $250,000 at auction. Something was up with that. Somebody was bidding somebody up. And Shiva, workmanlike, was never sexy, even when compiling. Pretty good win record last year, 4 for 9. Godsey had his horses fit first time back this year, so it was a big red flag that Shiva was no better than 4th, first time off the sidelines. Dropped all the way to 32. Godsey wanted to lose this horse, put a for sale sign on him, and the horse is up the track as the 8-5 favorite. He can route, but he was beaten by 10 lengths to the only horse who looked halfway decent at all in that 32 claimer last time. So I can't like Shiva. The only horse that I'm worried about here, if I do bet on Belamos, is not Scratch Off. Get out of here. Scratch Off at 5-1. Scratch Off's never been a 6 furlong horse to begin with. Scratch Off likes to go out and contend a little bit, and we'll keep trying. He's a want the lead horse who never gets the lead, it seems like, or is forced to fight for the lead, and is probably outfooted by number 3, Outkissed in here. And I think Outkissed is much more intriguing. Outkissed, a Hugo Andrade horse, and Hugo Andrade is 4 for 9 this year at the meet. And Outkissed was on synthetics 4 times in wide open races, no condition, run a 67 Byron, and tried to close, and that's not his game. But that's a good effort for Andrade. But he's off a couple of months before his last one and did not run like a 2-1 shot, and he's off a couple of months for this. There's never been a 6 furlong horse. In fact, he's unplaced 7 tries at 6 furlongs. But he's going to play Catch Me If You Can. And he was in with a very quick horse who had been getting the lead at Fairgrounds, Shriner, last time. And Shriner was a big chunk with a lot of speed. So you make Outkissed the leader here. I think you got to respect him somewhat. Number 3, Outkissed. He's going to be looking for the wire, though, at some point about mid-stretch.
So I'm astonished that scratch off is this low at 7-2. In my opinion, that's wasted money. Number 10, Confessor, some of that money disappearing on this 10-year-old route horse who's been away since November. He was 2-1, which was ridiculous. I think Belamos poses a more clear and present danger from out of it than does Zaddy. And Belamos, I think, as an added bonus, could be more tactical than Zaddy. Belamos might be sneaky close to the pace here because it looks potentially quicker on paper than Shiva, or at least Zaddy and Confessor on his outside there. And World Curlin had some decent form. I didn't like the fourth place finish when dropped to 32 and put up for sale too. It was so speed horse name all the way, and then came back and was 12-1 and ran like it. This horse really was claimed, I think, at the wrong time from the wrong guy. World Curlin, the 2 potential winners here, I think, are Outkissed and Belamos. I think those are your potential winners, and they certainly will use different styles in here. Outkissed job 1 is to outfoot scratch off, who may show somewhat enhanced speed from the 1 post, considering that he ran 5 and 4.5 and 5.5 in his last 3 races, all shorter sprints. The 6 furlong trip could enhance his early lick. Outkissed used to be some kind of fast. Remember him when he was a big heavy boy horse at Mahoning, but if scratch off gives Outkissed a tussle, I think they're putting the race right in Belamos' lap here. Number 6 at 7-2 and 9-2 on number 9 and 9-2 on the 10. So you have a variety of running styles represented here. I think it would best serve Belamos if he could fall into some kind of a stalking trip and get first run on the lates like Confessor, Zaddy. And we'll see who's closer up early. And this could be key if the speed's back up, Shiva or Belamos. I think Belamos should be lower than the 4-1 we're looking at right now. I have no quibble at all with the money coming in on Outkissed too. I think I made a pretty strong case for there. The distance is obviously the issue with Outkissed. Gotta love my man Chris Connor's comment made before the race, so he's not red boarding. Number 9, the jock wins it. Did you get a load of that left-handed stick action on Arroyo's part? His competitive fire burns brightly, and he can really finish on a thoroughbred horse, Ken Arroyo. I'm a little surprised he hasn't picked up more in the way of really live chalk mounts from some of the upper echelon barns at Mountaineer. I wonder if some of the horsemen are a little bit leery of him for whatever reasons. I don't know. I'd like to know who his agent is and what's going on behind the scenes with Arroyo. There was a time when Mountaineer was the next new thing, baby. The next jock that ships in, especially with some kind of a name behind him, is going to start being listed on 5 horses a race on the overnight. But you got these jocks now that are deeply entrenched with the Bernardinis, with the Cloustons, and they have the rotation. They have about 4 riders. They use a piece. Silva the same way, and it's kind of tough to break into that lineup, much less move to the top of it. But you would think Arroyo's star, even at this stage of his career, is on the rise, should be on the rise. And Mountaineer, the 3-horse just can't get 6 furlongs. That was the issue, plain and simple, without kick. The 1 and 10 were ridiculous bets, never had a chance. And I'm really disappointed in the way Balamos fired there. How could he be so sluggish to let Zaddy outmove him into that far turn? Just a putrid effort on the part of Balamos. And it's easy to say, okay, well, he ended up really, really wide there. Well, that's what you get when you can't make a move with Confessor and Zaddy going into that far turn. If you're that freaking sluggish, you deserve to be hung out wide on the grandstand side. So I have no sympathy for Balamos. So Zaddy, so much for company lines, who was second last time, to an off the bench who'd been away for months and months and months, 55 to 1 shot out of the more than obscure John Brown barn, wins this one to Zaddy. Zaddy was well hustled to be closest to that can't get 6 furlongs later Outkissed when Outkissed put the brakes on. So I think that win was maybe about 6 parts rider, 2 parts trainer, and 2 parts horse for Zaddy. Last couple of races look appealing to me. This one, maybe not so much. This is a very mediocre field than ever 2s that run for the $4,000 minimum. These fillies and mares, they're going a mile. Just not a talented crew at all. Maybe look for the hot trainers, the talented trainers. Tina Ramjeet, I call him Team Ramjeet because Andrew Ramjeet's back at the barn and he's at least a co-trainer on these horses, okay? And Tina Ramjeet knows her craft too. Craig Huxhold, her father, who I knew and used to take entries from when I was an entry clerk patrolling the backstretch, was a very meticulous master horseman. So she learned her craft from one of the best, her father. What if Craig's still alive? He was a pleasant enough guy. If a little secluded and reclusive and protective of his little space on the backstretches, a lot of horsemen are. It's a strange psychology, and certain politics come into play when you were tasked, as I was, as a fledgling official, with taking an entry pad, hitting the backstretch and going around and taking entries. And you don't just go charging into somebody's barn if they don't know you and you're not welcome or exactly what's going on in there. And a lot of them closed their barns off like Fort Knox. The Robertos, Lou Roberto, the son and the father, and they're both master horsemen too, are notorious for running a closed outfit on their farm. I think you would have to have some kind of FBI credentials to get in there. And I was proud they invited me to come to lunch there one time. I never did. I wish I would have. And maybe spied some of their secrets there. But yeah, Craig Huxell was a little secretive and a little protective of his environment, a little territorial on the backstretch. Tina Ramjeet's dad. Anyways, what I'm getting at is Tina won 2 races last night, 1 race tonight. I think a race last Wednesday, correct? So they got it going on right now. And Kunum is the 2-to-1 morning line favorite here and has been second 2 straight times. I'm not sure I'm all that enthused about either of those second place finishes. Kunum ran from behind on June the 7th, which was a good mode of attack there because Sil Jim or Sly Jim or Slim Jim or whatever who won it came from behind and had a great setup there. Kunum really didn't run the kind of number you would expect from a 6-to-5 favorite. Keep that in mind if Kunum goes off his chalk here.
because Kunim was 6-5 and came back with a lowly 25 by her speed fig. It's not going to win a lot of races. Kunim came back at a route and ran second, but the winner was under fire the whole way. Slow JBM, unstable Mabel. So I can't grade that performance highly. But Kunim is in good form and doesn't have much to beat. And the hot barn might be what puts this horse over the top. Although there's another factor I think that could work in here. And my man Kenny Neely says, older guys, an agent came out of retirement, was on show in Mountaineer a couple of weeks ago. Okay, I'm curious. I'm a little bit out of the loop on that kind of stuff. Just a little bit. Used to know the players better behind the scenes than I do now. But whatever the case, another factor that could help Kunim run a little bit better in here than she did the last couple of times is Barrios is a hard-gunning, hard-sending rider. And Kunim wasn't off poorly or anything in that route race, but was really sluggish on the stretch. And if you look at some of the sprints that have seen Kunim in front or forcing second, you would expect more route speed. There's a lot of sluggish horses in here, and Barrios is just the boy to gun Kunim out there and closer to the engine than Kunim was last time, and maybe capitalize from close proximity to what figures to be a soft pace, right? You naturally look at the invaders in a race like this, correct? And you got second best in there, number 6, who's never been second best. The only placing was the win at 15-1 at Parks. And after that, just no shot against never twos at double-digit odds every time. A little bit interesting because second best takes close position to the early pace when it's 23 and change a few times at Parks, and could be a speed factor here. And this is not Parks. So horses with ugly forms from Parks come in here and win. I looked this trainer up, though. And 0 for 2 doesn't begin to describe it. I think her record over the last 5 years is like 3 for literally 120 or 140 or something like that. So this trainer, I guess it's a guy just never, ever wins. And I mean never. Obvious contender, number 5, Quincy. Do any of you guys have raspberry bushes? I become a gentleman farmer in my retirement, and we got a big garden outside. My wife is not a horticulturist, but she's a country girl and takes comfort in having a big garden on our 1.5 acres, which means I have to weed it. And my son and I have to water it when we don't get the rains. And I get all kinds of raspberry bushes out there and thickets that are hard to get through, and just, they should produce tons of raspberries, but only like 2 branches are producers out of all this thicket of raspberry bushes. And boy, they're good producers, but only like 2 branches. Is that how it's supposed to be? The other ones just refuse to produce fruit. It's kind of like a parrot that I had one time. I was bird sitting the parrot when we lived in an apartment complex. Some Indian people went on vacation, had a parrot, and I kept waiting for the thing to talk. We had it about 2 weeks, and once it cleared its throat, and I got so excited. I think I dropped a glass of milk on the floor. But that parrot was about like my raspberry bushes, just didn't produce. Quincy, obviously a player here. And I guess maybe it's going to be the favorite. What's the board looking like right now, guys? Quincy is 9-5. And Quincy wins her first time out in career, a 40 claimer at Indy. Now that's inflated for a then 2-year-old, but still, for a 2-year-old to charge from last like that and power clear when debuted on a route, that's kind of impressive from the standpoint of stamina. Quincy is claimed for 15,000 when next wrist, and I get it, but just hasn't performed for the claimants. And you hate to see a horse halted for 15, offered up for 4,000 now, but what choice do they have? Quincy was 3rd on June 2nd, but at 2-1, a lot more was expected because Quincy was in trouble the time before, or might have won that. And Quincy just never lifted a hoof on June the 2nd. And then Quincy came back on July the 5th, and I know 6 furlongs was too short, but is Quincy really supposed to be losing ground from the quarter pole to the finish in a grossly inflated $25,000 two-life race that was taken off turf? It was wired off turf, supposed to be wired, but a 29 buyer from Quincy does not befit a horse that broke maiden at Indy
and first career start as a 2-year-old on dirt. It just doesn't. So this wagon train has not been headed west for quite some time. Number 5, Quincy. So yeah, Arroyo's got the back class to make a big splash in Mountaineer. And somebody mentioned not really a good guy. I've heard the stories on Arroyo, just like you guys have. That's the kind of thing I couldn't have said when I worked in the industry and did the Mountaineer feed, but I can say it here. And I'll give you guys a little bit of inside skinny there too. Jaybird probably has something of a character standard to ride for him. But King Clouston and Juan Pablo Silva, they're cold-hearted, just strictly all business guys. And I don't think that pair would care much if Satan the Devil could sit a horse and straight up horseback. I think they would give him some calls if he could do the weight, because not that they're bad guys, but they're pros. And they're very, very hardened, business-like guys. Although Jaybird's very business-like too, although much more amiable on the surface, and I think develops bonds with his riders, maybe a little more than the other two do. So Quincy 2-1, and Kunim is 6-5. I'm still ahead a few bucks on the night, and I really just I don't find either horse compelling enough at those kind of odds, and I don't really feel like going price shopping in this race because the competition is just straight up woeful. Holy Kingdom, new face. You got to look at those horses in bad bottom races at Mountaineer, but hadn't been out since December and stands 1 for 34. Pour Me a Drink on the inside, a 3-time winner. Okay. Has already beaten Never Twos a couple of times. A lot of times these horses, when still eligible for 2 lifers, the West Virginia breds, to roll it a 3rd time are short prices, but Pour Me a Drink, man alive. Those last 3 races, just very hard to endorse Pour Me a Drink. And when does this jockey amount? Like ever. And there's 5-1 on Dashing Lass. Dashing Lass got a speed fight up front and then did no better than clunk up for 3rd. Not a big fan of stretch running sprinters when they go around a ground. And when you see a horse with a 1 for 31 record, but the 10 minor placings, that record, that box score is screaming, I hang, I am common, I have no heart. I have no determination. Run me at shorter distances where maybe I can fake some kind of a kick or some kind of stamina. Almost always, the fewer furlongs, the better for that kind of a box score, guys. Is anybody excited about going to see the Odyssey with Matt Damon? Or is some of that woke casting going to turn you guys off? Do you have to go see it in IMAX to appreciate it? We usually wait for them to come out on pay-per-view, Little Bear and I, and then we take them in. But I love the sword and sandal epics and all that medieval stuff, and going even back further. Like we like to watch Troy. We do that about twice a year. And I like those kind of movies. And they're kind of in my blood, going all the way back to when we go to Saturday afternoon matinee in nearby Beaver, Paul Majors and me, my buddy, and watch the Gladiator movies. Hercules, Son of Hercules, and stuff like that. And so I'm looking forward to the Odyssey. But it has received some criticism, but maybe criticism of a political nature. I don't know. Are you guys excited about seeing it? Has anybody seen Disclosure Day? Because I haven't. And we just rarely go to the theater anymore. Instead, we stay home. And much to my wife's chagrin, her being the bring home the bacon gal, the breadwinner now, we spend probably about Lord knows, $100 a month renting movies in addition to our astronomical flat cable fee. I'm one of the few guys on earth that's too stupid to go a la carte and stream selected channels. So I pay the whole freight for the super golden. We'll give them all to you for the mere cost of $9,000 a month Comcast package. In return for which they can't even put a voice on the phone that I understand when I call with a complaint. Good luck here, guys. I do not intend to bet. Yeah, chalk that up. There was somebody had to win it race, guys. The favorites were just woeful there. Coonham, who rewarded her backers with a princely 25 buyer 2 starts ago was the favorite. That's not going to do it. Plus, what happened to her early speed. And then my man bombs away Bob Grant, I think was correct when he noted danger, Will Robinson, danger on Quincy, who was getting slower by the minute. I think my remark was Wagon Train has not been headed west in quite some time. When they claim him for 15 and risk him for 4,000 a couple of starts later, something ain't right. The talent was there from the outset at Indy, but maybe the underpinnings, the legs are not there, guys. You had the 3-1 angle to bank on there, but it wouldn't have been enough for me. I agree with my man, Kenny Neely, who said the one was so off form, I couldn't use his win advantage there. You know what, though? It might have been a little hard on the jockey, though, because when I watched the replay, it was a better ride than I thought. There's still not a jock I'm a fan on because the Hervé Villachez, that's what I'm going to call him. Wouldn't that to do with the little guy from Fantasy Island who would go, the plane, right? Yeah, Hervé Villachez. They made a good movie about his life, by the way. Anyway, so Villachez on is hardly the kind of angle that dreams are made of. But the horse came through and he came through. And initially I thought he was a little tentative lower turn. But when I watched the replay, there really wasn't much room at the end. And at least he didn't take back and haul around them and come 4 wide there on Pour Me a Drink, who was now a 4-time winner. A West Virginia bred Pour Me a Drink. Is this a great country or what? I thought Arroyo rode a really good race on Dashing Last, by the way, and gave that horse every chance. Yeah, Fantasy Island. Ricardo Montalban, welcome to Fantasy Island. I love him when he played the murderous, legendary bullfighter. And what was one of the best episodes of Columbo. I still watch Columbo once in a while. Usually when I go to bed at night, sometimes I will pull up a Columbo and I give the Lone Ranger a break, him in his onesie, and his faithful Indian companion, Tonto. It's one of my favorite episodes of Columbo, where Ricardo Montalban played the murderous bullfighter because he was just so arrogant, and the arrogant murderers who look down on Lieutenant Columbo make the best foils for Lieutenant Philip Columbo, and they play the best murderers for sure. Dick Van Dyke was really good too, and an earlier Columbo as a photographer on who had famous books, best-selling books full of his pictures, and he was a really arrogant murderer too, who was very condescending to Columbo. Ricardo Montalban, maybe my favorite murderer in the whole Columbo pantheon. So we got a new angle now. Villachez on. And now we come to the 440, otherwise known as 2 furlongs, open 10,000 claiming here. And we got some fast ones in here, man. Proven 440 commodity where you add Vince is 2 for 2 at this distance. We'll get to him in a minute. He is mentioned prominently in my race flow notes there. And you can see them going across the bottom of the crawl there in CNN fashion, as somebody mentioned earlier. And Cash Customer on the outside has won a few of these things. And Cash Customer is quick, and he is a 440 specialist. Cash Customer has been beaten twice by Where You Add Vince. Where You Add Vince just has higher top speed than does Cash Customer. Where You Add Vince, though, who lacks that quick first step that's usually requisite to victory at the 440, was very fortunate in his last 2 starts that after he was fairly sluggish for the first 50, 60 yards, the lane remained open for him to amp it up to top speed. Very fortunate. I don't know if he gets that lucky tonight. I really don't. Is the 5-horse here in between horses with about half the field on his outside, about half the field on his inside, Where You Add Vince. I think he'd be fortunate to get the same kind of trip. And they were giving him away last time for $7,500. This horse really came down the ladder, if this matters, at the 440 in a disturbing fashion. And very quickly, as if something's not right with him. So his only usefulness might be at the 440 henceforth. They sure didn't claim him to run him a big boy 6 furlongs again. Now, did they? I really wonder if this guy might have been caught holding the goods here, holding the bag with Where You Add Vince. You claim 3 to 5 shots on the class drop. Did one last time out, and sometimes you don't like them when you get them back to the barn. So I wonder about that with Where You Add Vince and his lack of a quick first step or second step or third step. He does take an open lane. He needs an open lane to get up to top speed, which is considerable I think he's going to need some racing luck here because almost miraculously, like parting the Red Seas, the lane stayed open for him to amp it up to top speed and win each of his last couple of races where you add Vince. Some of these horses that have never tried the 440 are fast. Pupil's very fast. I know him from Ohio. I'm not sure he has a 440 kind of speed, though. One of my criteria when a horse has never run the 440 is they have to be really quick away from the gates. They have to always get the lead. And Pupil doesn't really qualify on the always get the lead thing. And also, they have to show 21 and change at a configuration that incorporates some turn to that first call. If you guys follow me on my fractional criteria to succeed at the 440. And I've cashed a few bets by applying my formula to horses new to the 440. French Onion is very fast. He's never tried the 440. It's very strange to me that a horse so good at 5.5 and 6 is going to be run at the 2 furlong distance here. Now, Silva knows what he's doing for sure. No question about that. But no less an authority than Kevin Patterson, who won more of these things than anybody, once told me it screws a horse's mind up to compete at the 440. And for a lot of thoroughbreds, there's no life after the 440, at least not life in the winner's circle. But he's very fast, French Onion. But man, they find out how fast a horse is not when they back him up here and just say, hey, I dare you, bring your fastest guns at me because I'm the fastest gun in the West. And then we come to a Super Kick and Cash customer here. I like these races. I enjoy these races. And we certainly carded a lot of them, so I can't be a hypocrite and condemn Mountaineer for doing it, although we used to like to run them under starter allowance conditions or name your own claiming price conditions as star-making vehicles. From which the likes of bridge jump horses like Cutting Edge Tech and Huntress Helena and Phone My Posse again were created, and they became national names as a great Mountaineer Nation sprawled, even worldwide in a lot of instances. And these horses were household names, and they wouldn't have been run for the $10,000 and $4,000 claiming prices that are put up on these races now. Now the races are more competitive and the favorites don't win them 90% of the time, but you're not creating future legends like we did. So it's just a different philosophy. Better betting race here, unless you wanted to drive 400 miles to bet $10,000 a show, which I know of guys that would do on these 440s back when you had the dominant horses. I'm not sure who even takes those wagers nowadays. And certainly nobody would do that here because there are some different possibilities. My favorite possibility is number 9, Super Kick, who unfortunately I'm pretty sure is going to go lower than the 4-1 we see right now. And I will try to sum up Super Kick's chances after at least part of the post parade has transpired. Nine hours, just a little bit washed out, but it's a really warm night and probably a little bit humid. I'm not in love with seeing that. Super kick. Ironically enough, Kevin Joy lost where you add Vince last time for the 75 on the drop, and may have trotted out an even bigger monster here for this 440 was super kick. Super kick fits all my criteria. I know he's never run the 440, but he always gets the lead. That's qualification number one. He is pretty good from the gate. I would be mildly concerned about that, but not a whole lot. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And most importantly, super kick shades 22 seconds to the first call on configurations that incorporate some turn to that first quarter mile fraction. In fact, he's always 21 and change, and he's always in front, sometimes by healthy margins. This horse is crazy fast. Super kick. He's 21 and 1 at Charlestown, and 21 and 2 is rarefied air at the house that Speed built. So he's 21 and 3, 21 and 2, and finally 21 and 1 last time. Super kick. Wow. And I mean, wow. For Super kick, who brings the rider in tow. Here for Super kick, who is going to go down. I think you're going to see a tote correction. Is if Cash Customer, with a proven 440 quickness, gets that first jump on Super kick, which is certainly possible. And Cash Customer, when he breaks on the outside, has a habit of crashing down on horses. And I mean abruptly crashing down on horses. And I think he's had a rejection or two lodged against him when he has won or run second from the outside post Cash Customer. Cash Customer, very quick and very fast, but once some of these horses get up to top speed, they may be faster than Cash Customer, like Super kick and where you add Vince. But I think it comes down to trips and who breaks how and what manner and who has their path taken away right out of the gate. If Cash Customer does not relieve Super kick of his lane shortly after the break here, I think that his fate may be sealed. Super kick might be the winner here. And certainly where you add Vince, if his lane stays open, for him to crank it up to top speed, he is something to behold once he hits his top speed in these 440 races. And there was old reliable Cash Customer, the veteran winner at the 440, and his big chance is to get the jump on both these horses. Both these Charlestown Fireballs, Super kick, and where you add Vince for sure. I think this is going to be entertaining. Very, very entertaining. If you're thinking about betting a late double, I am thinking about, and let me page ahead here. I'm thinking about the 6 horse in the last race, Mama Marge. In fact, Mama Marge might be the horse that I bet on in the finale there. So good luck to you guys. Back in a couple of minutes. So Cash Customer does turn the tables on Where You At Vince, given the late defection of the horse that I thought might be the one you wanted to bet on. Super Kick. Super Kick was worked up at the post parade, runs off. Wanted to do a fast 440, but unfortunately didn't wait until they loaded him in the gate. I thought that was an opportunity because I was not big on the 5-horse there off the change of hands. And I thought maybe his luck would run out. It's very tough to spot those leaders, a horse as fast as Cash Customer, 3-4 lengths through the early stages of a 440, and hope that the path remains open for you to crank it up to top speed, which is considerable for Where You At Vince, and still get up to win it. Where You At Vince, man alive, he's something to behold. Once he does hit his top speed, his utter top speed, was fortunate again that his path was never taken away. He's one of the few horses I've seen that is raw fast enough to get crossed over on at the 440 and still win, but not tonight because Cash Customer, as I suspected, and I bet on this theory, and I mentioned it in my race flow notes there, Cash Customer, very rapid, the proven 440 gate quick horse, and loves to come crashing down on opponents and settle the issue with just one punch because he starts to take their paths away right out of the gate. And that's exactly what he did here, and got a lead that held up down to the finish there, Cash Customer. So I bet a few bucks on Cash Customer, and can't much lament the late scratch of Super Kick, who I still wanted to watch run. No question about it. I have no idea. It mystifies me what a sharp horseman like Juan Pablo Silva was doing by putting French Onion in there to begin with. French Onion, who has won 6 of his last 9 at standard sprint distances, has already raked in 50,000 this year, and that is just a completely wasted effort with French Onion, who doesn't have 440 speed or quickness. Just mind-boggling that French Onion would be spotted up at the 440 because Juan Pablo doesn't make amateur moves, but that was an amateur placement there. And all is happy in the Danny Bird camp this evening. What if anybody got claimed there out of that race? I'm going to guess Where You At Vince was not haltered back out of that. I'd be a little bit surprised. And my man bombs away Bob Grant said Juan Vasquez couldn't resist the Rodney Moyer-like glow off 3-year-old Quincy and claimed her, the negative dropper, who's been running backwards ever since that career debut, that scintillating career debut at Indy, is a 2-year-old. Rodney Moyers. You guys remember Rodney Moyers, who claimed more horses at Mountaineer and in Ohio than any horseman, probably in the history of this region, and knew absolutely nothing about what he was doing. Rodney Moyers. In fact, I said on the show one time on the Mountaineer simulcast signal that Rodney Moyers had been the most destructive force, and I still believe this, in the history of tri-state area horse racing, most specifically Northern West Virginia, because everything that he touched absolutely turned, and I guess it's too late for the kids to be up, so I can say this, absolutely turned to shit because he was a lousy horseman, Rodney Moyers, and everything that he claimed just began to run backwards. And he just ruined more horses and took them just out of the bettable horse population to where they weren't bettable. The odds would gradually work up from 2-1 when he claimed them to like 90-1 once the Rodney Moyers effect had taken full force. And I said on the air one time, he was the most destructive force in the history of this region's racing. And of course he heard it. I meant for him to hear it. And I said it from the heart because I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And even when working within the industry, I made that comment. He did not appreciate it. My brother was a very prominent agent at the time. And Moyers told him, Gary, I like you, and I like your rider a lot, but I can't put money in the pockets of the Patterson family. Well, that's okay, Mr. Moyers. That's okay. Do what you got to do. But even posthumously, because I said it when he was alive, and I'll say it again, he was a man who attempted to single-handedly be the ruination of Northern West Virginia horse racing. And in fact, I made thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars betting on horses that were claimed or purchased privately from Rodney Moyers, because even normal horsemanship, even an average horseman, could resurrect those horses because Moyers could just get no run from a horse whatsoever. And when he would sell one or have one claimed, I would put the horse on an auto bet basis for the rest of that horse's career. I didn't care about the placements, how the races looked, and I made a fortune doing it. Have you fans of Ohio racing ever seen a horse named Little Blaker run? After he exited the Moyers Horse Hotel from hell, he went on to win like 23, 25 races. And I was there every single time with a wad full of money for Little Blaker, baby. So I made a fortune betting on horses once they exited the Rodney Moyers digs. And my man Bombs Away, Bob Grant, remembers Rodney Moyers, remembers him very well. So we go on to the last race here, 3 minutes to post, and this is a 5,000 starter or a $10,000 claimer. This is the starter optional. And we got a really fast field. Take Wings does not have two-turn stamina on dirt, certainly two-turn stamina on turf. I can probably get 5.5 on dirt. I think Take Wings, who was won at 6.5 on dirt at Charlestown, and is really, really rapid. Take Wings was miscast last time as a two-turn dirt horse and may well get the lead here. Take Wings. So Take Wings, certainly a contender. No Tip Tony. Maybe the cutback helps, but No Tip Tony. I had a habit of staying left lead. It finally caught up with her last time when she didn't fire at a contending 7-2 price. It seems like whatever this guy runs this year just runs backwards. Kent Knudsen, who has been a decent horseman, but not this year, it seems like, a Mountaineer. No Tip Tony's run 26 times over the last 2 years also. I do wonder about the extreme cutback here, if it might get No Tip Tony's game back on a little bit through the lane, because No Tip Tony's best races have been in sprints from off the pace, and there's a lot of front speed here, even if those were long two-turn sprints. You Sell Money Baby, 7-1. You Sell Money Baby wins smartly. First time off the bench, comes back, had a right to bounce, and then next time was in with a very formidable Charlestown ship up who went gate to wire there. And You Sell Money Baby got stopped hard around the turn, or would have won that race. Superlative effort and earned a class raise. This horse that finds a way and knows how to win, but is at a tough spot at ground zero. They're inside Take Wings and Mama Marge. Mama Marge was in with a very fast foe last time on extremely quick splits by Charlestown standards. Mama Marge. Mama Marge is very rapid. Mama Marge has been in with better than these time after time. Lewis Craig does well when he comes to Mountaineer. Mama Marge has been away about 2.5 months, which concerns me. Maybe Mama's race is not filled at Charlestown. And those 6.5 furlong speeds can be well suited to 5.5 furlongs at Mountain. So many of these horses from Charlestown come here to run specifically 5.5, and they do it really, really well. And I look for a big effort from Mama Marge, who I don't think necessarily is going to be outfooted by anybody from the jump. Pop Style certainly has the cred, and even came from behind the speed to win a couple of times on the form there. Did Pop Style. Has Pop Style evolved into a need to lead type? And has Pop Style lost too much off of her fastball to really be a prime, absolute prime contender? Loaded Once More was Mahoning Horse of the Year from the distaff end a couple of seasons back. Loaded Once More. Knows the ropes at Mountaineer too, with that 4 for 14 record. And has a little come from behind in her in these short sprints. Loaded Once More. Crimson Knights is 7-1 there. Crimson Knights fell into a great spot last time against soft competition and found a speedless 4.5 furlong race in which she was actually quick enough to lead. Crimson Knights. So that was a ticket to win. She was an absolute cinch at 8-5, and I bet a lot of money on her last time, Crimson Knights. So to cut to the chase, I like Mama Marge. I am very much alive with that Daily Double. I wish you guys the best. And thanks very much for making the scene. Please subscribe if you're watching me. And please join me again tomorrow. We have 15 minutes until first post in a place that we all share called The Dungeon, baby. The Dungeon. Can you dig it? Mark Patterson out.